we're going to talk about 3 fundamental things Michael Penix does extremely well to throw the ball with such high velocity. First one I want to talk about is maximum external rotation of the shoulder. This is also referred to as the layback phase of throwing. So as I go to throw, can I get my wrist to trail my elbow, meaning I'm able to externally rotate really good in my shoulder. The more layback I get, the more range of motion I have. So it's like the more runway, more range of motion. That's for more arm speed and greater extension. Simply put, more external rotation, more velocity in football. So let's watch this first one. We're going to play this through full speed. He's able to throw this ball about 50 yards on a line and make it look so effortless. Let's first talk about that external rotation and how that helps him throw with so much velocity. So I'm going to pause. And what I want you to notice, let's go back a little bit more, is how he is able to get almost completely flat with his arm. So you'll notice that external rotation. See how his wrist is almost completely flat. That's about as maximum as you can get as a quarterback for external range of motion or external rotation in the shoulder. And that is what allows him to exert so much force, so much whippiness with that upper half. So he has a much longer runway per se than most other quarterbacks do, which then really increases that velocity through his throw. Picture down below, you can see of Chapman, who is one of the hardest throwers of all time for pitchers. He is almost able to get negative. He's basically flat with his arm, and that more range of motion is more velocity in the ball. Let's show Penix from another angle here. Same exact thing. I want you to focus on that external rotation in the shoulder. So how he is able to get almost completely flat right here. Let's go one more frame. Right there. So arm almost gets completely flat, which then allows him to whip through into that extension. Next thing I want to talk about is hip-shoulder separation. What this means, so this is another metric in baseball, extremely important for quarterbacks, is as I'm rotating through, what's the angle of separation between my hip and shoulders? Simply put, your hips start to rotate. If your shoulders can stay closed and you get a bigger angle of degree difference between that rotation, then that's more potential for velocity. So greater hip-shoulder separation, greater potential for velocity. What I mean by this, let's show you, is as he's able to take that stride step, what I want you to notice is look how the hips have turned and the shoulders are still closed here. So that angle of difference is the hip-shoulder separation. This then allows, so it creates a coil which allows the torso to whip through. So as I play it through, watch how that hip-shoulder separation will whip the torso through into the throw. So hips go first, and then that degree of separation is what creates the potential to whip the upper half through into the throw. Let's show that from the other side here. Is same exact thing. So hips are turning. Hips are turning right now, and shoulders are still closed here. So that degree of difference is what creates the potential for velocity to exert that then through that coil that was created from the separation. Last one is kinematic sequence. So kinematic sequence is the correct sequencing of body parts when throwing a football. So what you want to think is, I want to go hips first, then torso, and then arm accelerates through. Biggest thing is hips have to get out in front of the torso and arm. Very similar to when I talked about that hip-shoulder separation, is hips get out in front, then that allows me to whip my torso and arm through. So let's play it through full speed. And I want you to notice how his body is just able to whip into this throw, which looks so effortlessly. But what we want to pay attention to is that difference in the hips going first. So I'm going to try to pause this at the perfect time. Hips have rotated, so you'll notice hips are completely rotated through while his torso is still closed. So torso stays closed here as the hips rotated through. You can see how that then will whip his body through, and he's reaching that maximum external rotation. So if we tie it all together, hips are out in front. He created a big degree of separation with that hip-shoulder separation. And then what I want you to watch is as I play this through, how this is going to whip the torso through and whip the arm through. So if I get my hips out in front, that's going to increase torso rotation speed and arm speed. So hips out in front, torso and arm whips into it. We're going to play that through full speed so you can watch it. His hips get out in front, torso and arm whips into the throw. Makes it look effortless from downfield. If you want to be a quarterback that throws with such high velocity and such high power, these are 3 things that you have to get really good at. maximum external rotation of the shoulder. You got to get really good at that hip shoulder separation, and you got to sequence correctly. If you do all three of these things well, you will start throwing with high velocity and with high power on the football.